Hey guys, it's Merrick. I've got another gameplay commentary here today. In this one, I'm going to be playing BattleBit with the ACR. The ACR is a very good rifle. I enjoyed it a lot, but not a whole lot of people like it because it has 3 less damage than the M4 while boasting the same fire rate. It's got a slightly different recoil setup, which some people might find easier to use, some people might find harder, but like I said, I enjoy the gun and I think it's pretty decent. We're doing Domination on Frugis this time, and we happen to have randomed the underside of Frugis because we're in the smaller modes. And a lot of people struggle with this because of the more direct nature of having the enemies always be in front of you and limited flanking paths. So basically what I'm going to be showing here is how to cut the pie and take limited engagements in one of the most aged situations you can find yourself in. And because I absolutely abhor cheese, we're going to highlight those 3 DBOY engineers on the enemy team. All 3 of them are going to be abusing RPGs as hard as they can, and we're going to see if we can outfrag them. So let's get started. As we get up here to the first point of contact, we're starting to see enemies around the bend and on top of the train cart. So I'm trying to take tight angles to get individual fights and fight 1 or 2 of them at a time and begin to pick them off and bleed them out. There's not a lot of flanking opportunity and there's not a lot of pushing opportunity, so a lot of it is just tactically taking a bit of the angle and then being prepared to react or retreat, and then just trying to play the attrition game. The attrition game comes down to essentially making sure that you are being aggressive enough so that they're not getting complete reses or you're just going to be stalemated, while also not overextending so hard as to get taken out and pushed back yourself. So as you can see when I'm taking these fights here, I'm taking 1 or 2 fights, trying to make sure I'm getting a little bit more than my value, and then backing off the heal. This is from before the patch where band-aids were added to heal 40 health, so the downtime between fights is a little longer and the actual ability to pressure is reduced, so it actually would work out better now than it does in the video. But after getting taken out in the first big fight, we've been able to tax them a lot, although we weren't actually gaining a whole lot of space. Thankfully though, there were some allies that got a little bored of waiting and they decided to flank around through the under tunnels, so I spawned on them, tried to get up to the flank, only to eat a rocket to the side of the face by one of those very high skill players. I managed to spawn on a teammate and get in the off-bounds section where I was just super far away from the fight, so I respawned and got back to the front lines, and again started taking very tight angles, trying to tax the enemy as hard as possible. Most of this map comes down to one simple concept that I've said multiple times before. Basically, it's about taking individual fights, tight-angled engagements where you have a limited amount of space for the enemy to see you. You can make sure you're only fighting 1 person at a time on a tight angle, so that generally speaking, you have the most advantage possible. One of the minor benefits of using tight angles is that it is harder for enemies to see you, mostly because of the limited availability of an actual target, because keeping the angle tight, there's a lot less people to see, so some enemies won't even see you and you'll get 3 kills just based off of that. But most of the benefit of this strategy is precisely from the fact that you are taking 1 fight at a time when you are prepared for it and the enemy is not. And unless the enemy is pushing out past the angle that you are currently taking, you also get to choose when to leave the fight because since it's such a tight angle, when you go to back off, you are almost immediately out of the fight. Now, as important of a concept as it is, and as widely applied as it should be in all FPS situations, that doesn't actually have anything to do with this gameplay commentary. So we'd been respawning on our allies from the flank, continuing to apply pressure until we all got taken out. We were actually super far deep after the respawn, all the way in the enemy spawn, and rather than walk all the way back because I'm lazy, I just respawned back at our spawn. So now we are yet again pushing from our side of the map back towards their side of the map and encountering slightly less pressure though because they're still dealing with people on their flank and the fight has gotten kind of mixed up a bit. I go to res my teammate here, and then while I pick up the guy that killed him, I actually overextend and get taken out by a second one that I wasn't prepared for. But I'm able to get resed, and as we push back up and meet up with the bulk of our team, I'm actually finally able to kind of acknowledge all of the actual flank opportunities on the map, because you can go up these tunnels towards what would be the ground floor and flank around to the other sides, flank deeper in the tunnels, and you can also go lower under this map and flank deeper like my teammate had done earlier. So for a linear map, it's got a few flanking paths actually. So I give this guy a bandage and a kiss on the forehead, and then I'm back to pushing forward again. I actually think I have a little bit more room because of where those allied markers are at, but I walked straight into the enemy front line. Thankfully, they're dealing with those guys, and I narrowly dodged an RPG. I'm trying to get another more aggressive peek, and someone slides a perfect nade up that no sooner lands next to me than does it explode. But thankfully, because there's not a lot of pressure being applied, I'm able to get picked up right away, and I get right back into the fight. Nades are definitely one of the biggest things to worry about when fighting in this kind of a style. Obviously, you should respect nades and move back. If you see them coming in, you can even back up before they get to you because you don't know how far they've been thrown from. especially in situations like this, where people are trying to take the longest range fights to give themselves the most safety. Nades can be max ranged. They will airburst you. You will not have fun. You have been warned. As I'm pushing up here, I hear a commotion on my side, so I actually go over top of the train car, and I see that there's actually a tunnel going down, which is a whole lot of nerds in it. I'm able to get a few from the top of the train car, and then I drop some nades to give me some space before I'm actually able to push down. They return the favor by zoning me out with some nades. I try to push up aggressively as they wear off, but somebody actually pushes across at an off timing. My gun's not up, and before I can react, somebody peeks out, retreats, and then I get taken out by a secondary peek with an RPG. Finding myself out in the main tunnel yet again though, there's a whole lot of pressure and not a whole lot of cover in this area, so I'm trying to find whatever area I can to try to get a footing. Sometimes, based on the map, it'll be easier for your team to peek versus your team to get peeked into. Generally speaking, it's best to be aggressive when you can do the peeking because that allows you to retreat. If you're being peeked into, you generally get hit first and don't have as much time to fall back. Pushing up the tunnel a little further, one of our teammates is taking the outside and he draws the attention of some enemies and we get some free pickups as they try to gun him down. And then we're able to push up and take a really nice flank. That holdout collapses pretty quick to the flank, and then as I'm pushing back into the main tunnel, I try to go over top of the train and see some people at a long range and take a few of those engagements from there. My idea is to push up along the outside track as far to the wall as I can and try to get the flank. But as I get up here, I kind of overestimate how ready they would be with people already fighting from there, and I just eat a free death because I'm stupid. As I run back, though, we get up to a bend where it looks like our team is being the aggressor. That means that if I'm able to get a push here, I should be able to take tight angle fights, long range thing, the thing that hopefully you should be getting tired of hearing by now. Something else that I should mention, another rule to the cutting the pie game that is very important when you're playing this kind of style is you should actually be taking the farthest angle you can and being as far away from said angle that you can. What I mean from that is, if we're using this green box here, if they're farther away from that green box than I am, they will see me before I see them, and vice versa. If I am farther away from that box than they are, I will see them before they see me. Even if they are farther away from the angle, if you stand as far away from the angle as you can, as far back as you're possibly able to, they will have the least amount of advantage over you as possible. But that is also a much harder shot for both of you to make. It's just something important to know when you're trying to play the game to that style, that you can make those decisions and make those calls as you're playing, but it is absolutely worth mentioning that if you are able to make the shot at those more distant targets, staying farther away from the angle will give you a greater benefit, even if the enemy is farther away from that angle than you are. Getting back to this gameplay commentary, it seems like the enemy is able to have actually found the flank, which is something that happens very frequently in Frugis tunnels, and they were to get a flank on us. One of the most dangerous things that can happen to a team is to be pinchered from both sides, and especially because in public games, people aren't the greatest about communicating that. Even though people talk and there's an open communications channel, you'd think it'd be easy to get the word across. Doesn't seem to be. Getting flanked and getting pinchered is super deadly in these modes, and especially multiplied on this map. Thankfully though, I'm able to respawn on a teammate who's on a flank of that flank, and so long as we're able to keep our team alive, I spawn on here and try to continue to add pressure to harass them while they harass our main line. I'm able to take out a few of them, but eventually they run me over, and I wind up respawning back on our main line. When I get to the main line, it looks like we're actually pushing into a bend in the tunnel, which would allow the enemy team to have a better situation when it comes to peeking into us. Either way though, my team's making the push, so we're going to do what we can. Initially I try to nade the inside track, because I plan on going along that way, but I hear a lot of shots on the outside track, and as I respawn there, I see like 4 or 5 people in a little fucking box. I flub my nade, and I have to back off and reset before I can actually get a push on it. Trying to keep momentum, as soon as I finish healing, I push up and try to get an angle, but I'm still trying to minimize and not expose myself to all of them at the same time. I wind up dealing damage to a few and not getting any kills, but then they blow up the train next to us and we lose all of the cover that we had. I'm not gonna lie, till here, I didn't know you could blow up the train. But by the time I finish reloading, they're already cleared out, we wind up pushing farther down the tunnel, and that brings this match to a close, and we end the game with a 57 kills and 11 deaths. And despite fighting from the ball most of the time, and only a few times being on the flank, I didn't actually die very often to RPGs or anything cheesy like that. It's just about making sure you control what fight you are taking, and you are maximally ready, and you give yourself all the advantages you can. Hopefully there was a plethora of examples in this video to give you an idea of how to take some very unnecessarily difficult or annoying angles to fight in, and potentially how to deal with engagements that could otherwise be annoying. But I didn't play this game perfectly, just like a lot of them. I just didn't have enough time to go over everything because of how important it is to make sure that you know exactly why fighting from the main ball is not absolutely terrible in this kind of a linear fight. If you tried to shift W around like my normal playstyle, in this kind of a fight you would have an absolutely horrible time. I hope you're able to get something from this. Let me know what you do like, let me know what you don't like, let me know what you think so I can improve these going forward. Thank you guys for your support, and I'll see you next time.